So I was called to a job a few weeks ago over in Arawas regarding some underfloor and a system that wasn't working the way it should. Been installed about 5 years ago. Yeah, cut a long story short, there were some issues with the wiring. Did a few videos about it, but yeah, I've done some drawings now which I'm going to show you, and hopefully that should explain what the problem was and what we did to rectify it, and hopefully it should be pretty straightforward to follow for anybody that's trying to do a bit of sort of problem solving when it comes to wiring. Yeah, and try to simplify it and take most of the cables out of the equation so you can just see the actual switching side of it. So yeah, yeah, have a look at the drawings and I'll explain as I'm going along, see what you think. So yeah, as I was saying, I thought I'd do a drawing on the job we did, or we came across, and this is what we sort of had before we started. So if you can follow the drawing, hopefully you can. Obviously we had over here, we had a triple channel programmer, and what was happening when we had a call for heat from the actual programmer, if you look, the actual brown, which obviously then energizes the the 2-port to then send power back down the orange switch live to power the boiler. That was literally direct from the programmer, literally sending power up to power a pump, and just give these receivers power. So there was no switch live coming from there, so everything worked from this point on. So even if those were calling for heat up here, there was no way of controlling whether that was on or off. As soon as there was call from the actual programmer, obviously the zone valve opened, the boiler fired, because literally it went straight back down that way to the junction box and up to the switch live. And that was on the rad circuit upstairs, and they've all got ESI wireless thermostat receivers upstairs and downstairs. A very expensive way of doing it, but obviously we're just trying to utilize what was there in the first place. I mean, this is just the wiring side, so if we take earth lives and neutrals, you know, all that, this is just the switching side of it. So literally we got demand from the heating to the 2-port brown. In turn, that was sending power to the pump and sending power to these receivers, but at the same time it was sending the switch live straight back down and firing the boiler. So yeah, this is how we had it, and this is what we did to resolve it. And this is pretty straightforward. I hope you can follow my drawings, but obviously you have the demand now from the triple channel programmer that literally sent power over to our receivers now, and then from the switch live of the receivers, that comes out the other side, sends a signal. Once that is obviously sending power down the brown, powering the pump for the radiator manifold or the UFH manifold, and then in turn switch live will then come back and turn the boiler on. So yeah, so even if there's demand from these two, unless these are calling for heat or the thermostats sense a temperature drop and need to come back on, the boiler's not going to be running and cycling all the time, which is exactly what it was doing. Whether this was on auto, as soon as the time side come on the old part, and as you can see, it was just firing the boiler, and obviously there's no diagram of how the pipework's set up, but literally it was just running through the bypass, overheating, cooling down, cycling. So yeah, yeah, any comments, just let me know. But that was how we resolved it. We had to get a new cable basically back from each manifold, switch live back to the main wiring center, which was by the boiler, and then yeah, then we could obviously take that through the brown of the zone valves, and then we had a working system. So yeah, hope you found that interesting. Yeah, wiring's not too complicated. Sometimes it's easy to draw out what you've got and what you want to do, and you can see literally we're just trying to make a circuit that works in the right way, so obviously then it fires the boiler in the correct order when there is demand. So yeah, hopefully you enjoyed that. So back over at this job in Arawas to get it working properly, or much better than it was anyway. So yeah, well, properly, the way it should be done. So yeah, so what did we do? What was the problem? The problem was that the triple channel programmer, which is this Viessmann triple channel, that was, as soon as that was on, or it came on when it was due to come on timed, that would fire the boiler automatically without any external demand from any room stats. And actually the way they'd wired it, that actually sent voltage to the manifolds, which just ran the pump constantly, and then all the actual room stats were doing were opening actuator heads. So yeah, if the boiler was on and all the stats were off, then the boiler was firing and cycling, and the pump on all the manifolds was just constantly running, even though it wasn't actually doing anything. So very probably expensive to run and very obviously inefficient. So what have we done? So what we have done is we've where the demand comes from the twin channel or triple channel programmer, we have made that the permanent switch live to the manifolds, which then powers the actual programmers in each section, and then took another cable from there, so the demand cable comes back, and that goes through the brown of the 2-port valve, and then that in turn fires the boiler. So yeah, as you can see, we've got our cable in that trunking over there, going up there, goes over the loft, and then there's a manifold the other side of that wall, which is the upstairs, and then there's another one the other side of the house. So we've looped over in the loft. Yeah, we've looped over in the loft from one manifold to another, and then brought that back down, and that does the heating, which is upstairs, which is that zone valve there. And then what we've got, we took another one from the downstairs, which is this conduit here. So we took a, so literally we just took a switch line from there back this way, nice and hidden round, and then through there into the boiler wiring centre. And then yeah, obviously when we've got demand then from our stats, that then goes to the brown of the other zone valve, which is that zone valve down there. So yeah, and at the minute we should have, I'm saying we've got hot water demand, have we? We've got demand from somewhere. Where's the demand? Oh yeah, so we've got demand from downstairs. So one of the stats is actually activated. So let's have a look. Have we got one of the stats activated? It's not that one. It's not that one. Probably going to be, there you go, hallway. Yeah, little flame on there. Over to the receiver. Absolutely. Oh, that was pretty good timing. That came on obviously because the front door's been open. And then yeah, got a little wiring box down there, and then that in turn turns the pump and opens the hallway actuators. So yeah, overall a very good result, and it's working exactly the way we want it to.